Hi, welcome to Audiobook Academy. This is a self-paced audiobook. There's no need to keep an eye on things. Just pay attention. Thank you for taking the time to listen. This is a book summary of The Power of No. Because one little word can bring health, abundance, and happiness. By James Altucher. No as a complete sentence is a phrase you may have heard before. Our inability to say no is causing chaos in our lives. James Altucher and Claudia Zula Altucher have written a book to help us declutter our lives and let go of our responsibilities in order to achieve health, wealth, and happiness. It's a nod to Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, but the power of no focuses on why saying no gives us back our power and freedom. Allowing ourselves to say no isn't enough, it's about embracing the power to say no, as well. We can say yes to the most meaningful things because we have a better understanding of the consequences of saying no. Anecdotes and life lessons from the authors explain why we shouldn't be frugal with our no's in a compelling way. To help us begin the process of taking charge and learning when to say yes, there are a variety of exercises included. We become overburdened by our inability to say no, which only serves to increase the already lengthy to-do list. It teaches us to face our fears, pain, and suffering, and to listen to them. Peer pressure, the need to conform to social norms and expectations, and the need to purge ourselves of all that is harmful and distracting are all addressed in this book. We've been taught to say yes by our culture. Saying no to things that stifle our creativity and limit our ability to realize our full potential is a central theme of this book. We have a right to live more meaningful lives and should prioritize the things that are important to us. We don't have to say yes just to please other people or because we feel obligated to. Saying no more often might just save our lives, so let's take a quick look at why saying no is enough. Make a decision. Trainspotting's famous Choose Life monologue may come to mind when you hear this phrase. However, this is one of the book's most important concepts. Saying no more often could save our lives, according to the authors. If someone doesn't feel the same way about you as you do about them, how often do you pursue a relationship with them? You've made promises out of obligation how many times before? Perhaps you've ignored your intuition, ignored your anxiety, or made yourself crazy with pros and cons lists. Whatever the reason, it's time to face the facts. Think about how quickly you say yes and how many questions you ask yourself before you commit to saying no to something. Saying no is a time-consuming process, and it also necessitates us admitting to ourselves some unpleasant truths. However, when we free ourselves from the burden of the time it takes to say no and realize how healthy it is to refuse things, we gain back the power. In this case, the lesson is that we must learn to say no just as quickly as we say yes. Understanding that no one's life is a walk in the park is critical to making the right choice in life. In your life, have you ever thought, "I wish I could die"? In the midst of extreme pain, you might say these words to yourself. The authors argue that at this point, we need to use this to transform and reevaluate our suffering, as they say. We should take advantage of the pain we are experiencing to purge our minds of stale ideas and observe what rebirths emerge. As an example, avoid engaging in activities that could endanger or injure you. It's time to let go of things that could kill you and people who make you feel bad if you choose to live. If you want to live a more joyful and fulfilling life, you must eliminate any negative influences in your life. It's our prerogative to decide who we allow into our lives, and figuring out who's in our inner circle can assist us in this. Make a list of people you see at least once a week and start there. Next, rate how you feel when you interact with these people. With a simple 1 to 10 scale, you can see which people are worth spending more time with and which should be avoided at all costs. As a final piece of advice, be honest with yourself about your habits, especially any addictive or habitual ones. Decide on a set of values. Do you have a clear idea of what you're passionate about? Many of us have a difficult time defining our interests. However, the authors recommend a less daunting approach to this task. For a change of pace, why not stop by your local bookstore or library? Your natural tendency will be to seek out subjects that interest you. Perhaps you're a fan of cookbooks or architecture books? Perhaps you've picked up a copy of the Histories of the Ancient World to read? This will reveal some of your most fundamental interests no matter where you look. It's critical to be aware of your own interests and values in order to make decisions that are in line with those values. It's easier to say no to things that don't align with your values if you've learned how to assert yourself. We've all said yes to things that didn't feel right, despite the fact that our instincts might have warned us. We've all been in relationships with people who don't share our values. Resentment and bitterness can result from saying yes for the wrong reasons. Because of how saying yes makes us feel, we end up in a lose-lose situation in these situations. Passion enters our lives when we prioritize what we value and what we are interested in. In addition, There is no better method of inspiring than to exude enthusiasm and excitement. Make a decision to remain silent. We live in a society where we are bombarded with advertisements and promotional material whenever we turn our heads. Ads, new products, news, gossip, rumors, social media, and so on are all around us. We are bombarded with options and told we'll never have enough. This is the time when we must say no to noise. Despite what we believe, there are plenty of resources available to us. As a result of this self-perceived scarcity, we become obnoxiously materialistic. We must return to the basics and embrace simplicity in order to understand that more is not always better. When we believe we have enough, we can begin to focus on the most important aspects of our lives. In addition, we will be able to say no to extravagance and yes to gratitude as a result of this. There's a lesson to be learned here about focusing on what you have. Historical scarcity complex is the problem, and it is based on the fact we've evolved to think of all of our resources as being limited. The fact that we have an abundance of resources today does not change our steadfast belief in scarcity and a need for more of everything. There are a number of suggestions made by the authors on how to make the most of silence in order to live a more contented, abundant life. Gratitude and the belief that the glass is not half full but overflowing are the first steps in this process. If you're stuck in traffic, for example, instead of whining about it, pay attention to the scenery. Focus on the people and places you're in, as well as the infrastructure, architecture, and other structures that surround you. Observe what you're listening to on the radio, and marvel at how far technology and progress have come. Pay attention to what other people have to say. Let people finish their sentences is one of the most important lessons in the book. Imagine it's their last day on Earth, and give them your full attention and focus on what they're saying. Our own inner voice must be heard as well. Make an effort to quiet your mind and pay attention to your own thoughts. Scream no at any negative thoughts you might be having. Yell no as long as it takes to get rid of it. Your negative thoughts will diminish if you listen attentively and practice patience and self-control. Recognize and pay attention to your feelings of anxiety and discomfort. It's our body's way of alerting us to potentially harmful people or situations. What causes you to feel anxious about certain people or situations? You can't hear what your body is trying to tell you if you're distracted by too much noise. As a result, it's important to never underestimate the impact of complete silence. Do what makes you happy instead of what hurts your feelings, and you'll find relief. Make a decision. No one else can decide for you what you should or should not have, you are the only one who can. As a result, affirm your commitment to yourself. We are well aware that obtaining all of our desires does not bring us joy. We are content when we have a sense of direction and significance in our lives. Buddha's story shows us that finding our purpose is often a painful process, as evidenced by Siddhartha Gautama's story. In order to live a life that satisfied him, Siddhartha Gautama followed his own path and his own calling. He went through a lot of pain, but he was able to find out what he was here for. Norms and expectations set by others shape so much of our daily lives. If we don't achieve these goals, we're viewed as failures. We can always say no if that is our preference. The first step is to figure out what we want out of our lives. Is there anything in particular that you'd like to accomplish in your life? Asking ourselves what we desire is not the same as discovering our true calling. A lot of the time, what we want isn't what we need. The things we want often have unfavorable consequences. For instance, we might yearn for a larger residence. Even though a roof over our heads is a necessity, having a larger house may put us at risk of running into financial difficulties in the long run. Instead of giving in to your desires, cultivate a grateful mindset. Also, instead of saying yes to things, affirm your own worth by saying yes to you. Keeping a gratitude journal, where you record all the good things that happen in your life, can help make this process go more smoothly. Begin by writing a list of 10 things you're grateful for each day, then work your way down the list. It's possible that even something as seemingly insignificant as breathing qualifies as one of these. Gratitude helps us let go of negative thoughts and feelings so we can focus on the many blessings we have in our lives. The alien technique is another exercise. Think about how much time you have left in this human body when you awaken in the morning. Keep in mind that all of your actions are geared toward preserving your host body's life, so you should make decisions based on that principle in mind. Your decisions have a profound impact on the person's physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental health, regardless of whether you say yes or no. Take note of the choices you make and the things you say yes to on any given day. After completing this exercise, you may have a new outlook on eating, working out, meditating, and sleeping. Ending on a high note. We learn to live in the present by saying no to the past and future in the book, The Power of No. In addition, it teaches us that learning to say no can be liberating and empower us. Being able to identify the rationale for our actions helps us make better decisions and avoid making hasty decisions. When we realize that we must live our lives for ourselves, rather than for others, we will have made a significant shift. It is time to say no to attempting to impress others and feeling obligated or guilted into doing things we don't really want to. If you want to move forward in your life, you must cut off contact with those who only bring doubt and negativity into it. When you are faced with situations or beliefs that do not align with your values, it's important to learn to say no. Reinvention, creativity, and ideas, as well as small changes that make a big difference, can all be pursued when we have the freedom of saying yes. Saying yes to the right things has a cascading effect, so pick your yeses carefully. Make the most of your ideas, cultivate gratitude, embrace silence, and never underestimate the importance of sleep. Above all, make the decision to live. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Please don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. See you in next audiobook.